What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the JT Sports Podcast. I'm your host, JT. The Bengals rather pinch pennies than pay the price that it costs to win the Super Bowl. Instead of going out there and big game hunting, getting the best players available, paying the price that it costs to build a championship team, they rather go out and great value hunt, try to find the best bargain. And they expect for Joe Burrow, Shemar Chase, and T. Higgins, a three-man team, to carry an average to below average roster to a Lombardi trophy, and that's just unrealistic. You don't want to pay your best player on defense in Trey Hendrickson, who led the NFL in sacks last year at 17 and a half. If you would have taken Trey Hendrickson off of Cincinnati's defense last year, they would have went from 25th in sacks to dead last in the league in that department. That's how big of an impact Trey Hendrickson had on this Bengals defense. With the secondary that has a lot of question marks at corner and safety, having a top-tier pass rusher that can win those one-on-one matchups makes life a lot easier for you on the back end. Not only do they not want to pay Trey Hendrickson, but they refuse to pay the guy who they drafted in the first round to replace him. Shemar Stewart was right about everything he said pertaining to the Bengals organization. They care more about winning arguments than they do winning Super Bowls. And it shows with how they go about their contract negotiations. They expect for Joe Burrow to be Mr. Perfect, essentially. Joe Burrow, this season, for the Bengals to not just make the playoffs, but have a shot at making another Super Bowl run, he has to throw 50 touchdowns and only 3 interceptions. He has to play damn near flawless for the Bengals to be a playoff team and to get back to the Super Bowl. And as much as I love Joe Burrow, he could play for the Bengals for 2 more decades and never come anywhere close to winning a Super Bowl as what he did in his second season, because it looks like that Super Bowl run that the Bengals had a few years ago was a little bit of a fluke, because this organization is in a division where you have the Steelers and the Ravens who consistently win, not because they are able to find great values in free agency, but because they're able to draft and develop really well, and they pay their core guys. The Steelers are going to pay TJ Watt. They paid Cam Hayward. They've paid Minka Fitzpatrick. The Ravens have paid Marlon Humphrey, Lamar Jackson, Ronnie Stanley. They are paying the most important players on their team and not trying to be cheap. You can't win in the NFL trying to assemble a team from Dollar General when you're going up against teams that are shopping at Gucci, Prada, and a Louis Vuitton store. Hell, when you lost to the LA Rams in that Super Bowl, they said F those picks. They weren't trying to build through the draft and try to save money. No, they were running up that salary cap, going in and getting Jalen Ramsey, trading for Von Miller, and they also got OBJ in the trade with the Browns. They got Matthew Stafford. The Rams made the moves that you are supposed to make when you're all in on winning a championship. Same thing with the Philadelphia Eagles. They were willing to pay what the Giants were unwilling to pay to get Saquon Barkley. And look what that addition got them. Their second Super Bowl in franchise history. No team in the league wins by the way that the Bengals are trying to just find these great values hanging on the rack in the thrift shop and thinking that that's going to be enough to suffice when you have a predominantly 3-man operation and Joe Burrow, Shemar Chase, and T. Higgins. As good as what these guys are, they need a lot more talent around them for the Bengals to be a consistent contender and a consistent winner and the NFL's toughest division. The Steelers are going to be better than the Bengals this year. Not because of the addition of Aaron Rodgers, but because they have solid quarterback play, they've drafted well, and they have an overall more complete team than what the Bengals do. The Bengals being unwilling to spend big money in free agency is why this roster is in the state that it's in. You have a new defensive coordinator in Al Golden, and you think that he's going to be able to make up for the lack of talent on this side of the football? Lou Anarumo went from being a finalist for several head coaching jobs 2 years ago to all of a sudden getting fired now on the Indianapolis Colts. And it wasn't all because of him. You don't fall off because you forget how to coach within the span of 2 seasons. Part of Lou Anarumo's demise in Cincinnati was the front office being unwilling to retain Jesse Bates, who in Atlanta has still remained an all-pro safety. They've been unwilling to keep some of the core guys around who were responsible for their Super Bowl run because they choose to be frugal instead of being on the aggressive, going on the attack, shopping at the premium outlets. They think that you can win just being cheap. And what does getting cheap get you in this world? You get cheap results. When you go out there and you buy cheap clothes, they don't last that long. When you pay $20 for some knockoff AirPods, the audio quality isn't good. And when you have a cheap roster, you go 8-9, despite having a better quarterback than the Steelers, you finish 3rd place in this division. It's a quarterback-driven league, but it still is a team sport. And it doesn't matter if you have 3 high-level guys, if the rest of your roster is comprised of guys that you found off the shelf at the Dollar General. Shemar Stewart was right about everything he said about the Bengals front office. They care more about winning arguments than they do winning Super Bowls. They rather say, we can win being cheap than pay the cost that it takes to win a Super Bowl.